In today's video, I'm actually excited because I'm going to bring you through a document that has really changed the way that we find winners and scale companies that we work with. And as I say here, this creative document allows brands to consistently produce winning ads on a monthly basis, weekly basis, as consistently as possible, to be honest, making it unreasonable, as I say on my title, not to scale to 8 and 9 figures a year. In case you are a completely new viewer and you do not know who I am, my name is Brando. I work with 8-figure brands, also 7-figure brands, but this is just one of our own clients who just yesterday alone did over $70,000 in revenue just on their Shopify division. Okay, so I'm showing you this so you understand the type of caliber of clients that we have access to and the data that we have access to on a daily basis. Great, so let's get right into the video. Let's understand one important principle, and this is basically the principle that we use to find winning ads. We need to understand that the people that make up the team are the creative team, okay? This is the creative strategists, the editors, the graphic designers, the CMOs, the head of performance. If you do not give resources to these team members to recreate and just produce and come up with amazing and brilliant ideas, then it's really hard for them to do that. So one thing that we do religiously is we create a wholly creative document, which is exactly the document that I'm referring to in the title of the video. I'm going to show you the document in just a second. But before I do, this is essentially what the document has. It has all the resources that they need, like buying triggers, proven scripts, required B-rolls, voiceovers that work, ad frameworks that work, best direct competitors, avatars, right? Essentially everything that they need to know that make up a winning ad. So the vision is that they log into this document, which once again I'm going to show you in just a second, and they have the creative section, the research section, and a sales process ideal for making winning ads. And I'm going to show you, as I said, so you understand what components is made of this document. But the whole idea is to give as many resources as possible to your team so that they can come up with these ideas in a much better way and more sustainable way. So once they have this creative document, my team members, right, or any brand, the idea is to just obviously, once you have all the resources to make better ads, that you increase your hit rate. What is the hit rate? The hit rate is essentially the percentage of ads that actually are, I call them medium to large size winners. Essentially, ads that can scale, right? Are profitable, scalable, consistent, right? Of course, very profitable. And so it's of course a lot more sustainable for a brand to run at an ad hit rate of 13%, which is very good, 15%, 10%, instead of running at maybe 1, 2, or 3%, which is what I see, right? And typically, by the way, these X's are basically all the failed ads, and this is the winner, right? And so we want to go from this to having 4, 5, 10 times the chances of hitting the winning ad. Why is this important? It's really simple actually, because this model is not scalable, right? So if you want to increase your creative volume, it doesn't make sense because you're just be increasing in efficiency, right? And so this is kind of waste of time, waste of resources, burnt out team, right? I can't imagine how frustrating it is to tell your team, hey, this didn't work, right? They want to be resourceful to you. So this also it's just burning out your team. Frustrating, not scalable, you get the point. And this is a lot more scalable because there's a higher hit rate, motivated team, efficient, scalable process, and less time to find winners. If you can spend less time to find a winner, right, then that's where you start winning and you can create a scalable process. I'm going to talk about the rest in just a second, but let me just show you the document. Great, so this is the document that we use. Once again, whenever, and it has a bunch of other tabs I'll show you in just a second, but essentially what my team does is that every single time before they actually come up with a creative concept or a brief or a script, which is what makes the ad a winner, right? The script, what is the composition of the script, the B-rolls required for the script, right? Who is saying the script, the hook of the script, right? All that stuff is related to the creative. Once you have a script, then you can come up, or a brief, then you can come up with a creative concept, right? That we want to test. And so, first of all, this is how it starts. This is of course is a template. I give this out to my community, and so this is just a template for them. And so we have general information here, some KPIs of the brand. I'm not going to go through this, but this is where it gets really interesting, where there's this research section, which is divided into, there's actually also another section that we're adding. This is a demo, so I honestly forgot to add it, but there's customers, there's creatives, there's market, and also there's product. Okay, these are like the major ones, but these are the ones that make the biggest impact when it comes to like the actual creative. And so there's research on the customer, and so we have like customer reviews. We analyze specific reviews. We highlight components of a review that we think is going to trigger people to buy, or where we see an aspiration, or where we see that they're skeptical. If we can find recurring components from one review to another, then that's where we can come up with very cool ideas, common themes, pain points, what the customer really likes about the product, repeat phrases, etc. So we can start integrating their language into our, into what we do, into our creatives. And so, as you can see here, same with Amazon, TikTok research, Reddit reviews. This is avatars, is us coming up with like unique avatars. These are just examples of avatars. The pickup line mom, or the wedding ready woman. You get the point. You can just stop the video and read them through. These are just examples of research. And so ideally, what ends up happening is that over time, right, your document doesn't have to be full from day one, but over time, after 1, 2, or 3 months, by the end of the year for sure, you're gonna have so much research, right, that it's gonna be like so important. And by the way, when you leverage AI to like build agents for your company, you can use this as knowledge base, right? Whenever we go into like use ChatGPT, it asks you for a knowledge base so that they're congruent, and the outputs that ChatGPT gives you is congruent to like the knowledge base. So you can literally use this as knowledge base for future agents that you want to implement, AI agents that you want to implement for your business, right? And so this becomes more and more fruitful over time. And of course, you can't have like 300 pages per, right? You have to make sure that you maybe put only the best reviews, and you have like a systematic way of going through this document, right? And so this is not where we document things. We have another sheet called Command Center. This is where we really document stuff, right? Where, if we write ad copies, we write them over here. If we have visuals, you can get the sheet, by the way. There's a link down below. This is like a command center for the brands that we work with. We created this. Every single thing that we do for the client, and you can use this for your own, brand as well. It doesn't have to be through an agency. Like, we document. So we know exactly what we've done. We also have a creative testing tracker sheet where every single creator that we use, creative concept that we test into the ad account goes over here. But how do we come up with these creatives? Well, that's where we go back and we use this creative document, which only is not like a documentation hub where we do like, hey, if we do an ad copy, we put it into the command center. This is like high level strategy. I'll give you another example here for like, creatives. We track like winning breakdowns. So we break down ads scientifically. So let's just say this is like a UGC ad number 2 is a winner. This is the link to the ad. We break down the ad by the framework so my team understands why it's working, buying triggers. And then we also break it down scene by scene, so we know exactly what happens between second 2 and 5 and 8. You get the point. So once again, the team can go in here, go into the customer section, come up with new ideas, reading like Amazon reviews. Then it can go over here and look at winning ad breakdowns and get an inspiration and some cool ideas as to what is working in the market, winning ads, right? Same thing with like concepts. We like to also track Atria concepts whenever we go and use like tools like Atria, if I'm logged in, hopefully. But we can use these tools where we can like funnel hack and find winning ads. We can filter by, skincare, whatever. And then we can look at a specific brand. And then let's just say Sand and Sky. And then we can filter by like active ads. You follow the brand, and then you can study everything about this brand. This is an amazing tool. You can also filter by longest running ads to see what are the winners, and by active ads. So it's like it's a spy tool to like, it's a spy brand. You're spying brands and their sales processes and their landing pages and their offers and their personas and their ad angles. You're spying everything. And so this for example has been running since April. 2 or 3 months, which probably means that it's a profitable ad. And so maybe we want to break that down and put it into the Holy Creative document, or add the link to the ad over here so that my team knows that that's a winner, it's working, and they understand every single time what's working real time in the marketplace. And then we have a competitors. You get the point. We also have like once again, these are like, they're blank because it's a template. And then we have the same thing with like creative strategy. So let me just open up a tab here. This is what you get, right? Research, you go through the research. Once you know everything about the customer, once you know and understand what creatives are working, then we can analyze and start building the components of the ad, which is called kind of like creative strategy. So best UGC creators that have been working well for us, right? Maybe we want to say, as we were giving out a task to the team, the creative strategist goes in here and sees that Jennifer is a UGC creator that has been working well for us. So maybe we want to use that as a framework because it's proven, right? Then winning scripts, winning ad hooks, right? Concepts, required B-rolls, right? We like to put like, the B-rolls that have been working well for us. We put them over here. And so there's basically a hub. And then of course, we also like to look at the sales process. Whenever we come up with a concept, it's never just about the ad. It's about the ad, the entire video, the click, right? Where do they go? To a landing page, to an advertorial, and where do they go after? To another landing page or to maybe to a direct offer? Maybe they go to a VSL, right? It all matters because it's never just about the ad. It's about an entire congruent sales process that is really personalized to the avatar customer, right? That is why things work with ecom, right? At least that's what 8-figure companies do. And so we have other, best offers, winning pages, sales journeys, where we can like maybe dissect an avatar and say, okay, based on this avatar, the best course of action with the sales process is to go from a UGC ad to an advertorial to a direct offer, right? And then we break down what the advertorial would say, etc., etc. So once again, I don't want to confuse you too much here, but we track everything here, right? But how do we come up with ideas, right, to track, right? How do we come up with ideas that we can then track? We come up with the ideas by having this kind of like holy creative document, which is really, really helpful. So let me go back over here and kind of show you. I already shared this with you, these sections, but essentially it's like a sequence section where this section serves to understand what the customer desires, what are their aspirations, what do they want to become, right? Which is really, really important as a foundational part when it comes to generating creatives. Then this section over here, the creative section, serves to understand what types of ads and creative concepts are working in the industry, in the niche, in the vertical right now, right? And once we know that, as a reminder, then we go into creative strategy, which is building the components of the ad. And this section serves to understand what ads, angles, scripts, and frameworks are working actively right now. By studying what works and understanding why it works, the team has a higher chance of success when it comes to creating new ads. And then this section is, we record ideas, sales processes that work, that can complement our creative efforts, right? You get the point. And so overall, this document serves, as I wrote over here, to document what is working from A to Z so that the team can understand why things work. And all this fuels creative ideation to come up with new ideas and creative tests. So once again, as we go through this document, it doesn't mean that we have to like follow what to the T and copy and paste what worked in the past. But it's more of like understanding the components and the triggers that make things work so that we can come up with our own research and our own process of coming up with a creative concept, right? The other thing that really matters is tracking, and I showed you before already. This is the most important thing because you can come up with the best creative concepts in the world, but then if you don't have a systematic way to track and iterate on them, then it makes no sense. And I talk about in all my other videos very religiously, is the fact to track everything in this command center where every single creative test that we put into the ad account is being tracked over here, and we track ROAS, CTR, cost per click, and everything like the ad account, but also we know what components is made, like what are the components that made this creative concept. So the avatar, the emotion, the hook, the messaging, the copy, the creative links, or sorry, the creatives that we use, images or videos, right? And then once we analyze why things are not working, right? Because most tests, even if you are like $1 billion brand, are just gonna fail. Like 90% of the tests are typically gonna fail. You would be doing a disservice to yourself if you don't analyze why those ads are failing. And if you don't have a comparison sheet over here, it's really hard to crack. For example, if you notice as a trend that most of your hooks, because you are breaking down the ads methodically and very scientifically, you notice that in your vertical, most of the hooks that are with moms just with a raw camera where they're holding their baby are working very well because they have like a 60% hook rate. And then you analyze one of your ads here, and this clearly it's something similar, but the mom is not holding the baby or something like that, then maybe that is a component to split test against. But every single time we come up with creative tests, they're based on learnings. We have a learnings section over here to come up with next steps, because then everything is random. And then of course, just like any Google sheet or Google document, whatever, Excel sheet, we can like track win rate with because we track the results over here: break even, loser, winner, right? And depending at the stage and the scale of your brand, how much it's scaling and how much it's spending, then you can track kind of like win rate and break even, etc. Okay, so you get the point. Hopefully this is valuable. As you can see, there's other people right now actively getting this sheet. You can get this alone. There's also more other resources here, like emo flows, CRO, UGC tracker, visuals, whatever. So get it. And on a side note, if you want access to this document, I can't just give it to you like that's because it's something that I'm going to give to my school community members. Okay, if you want to join. If not, no worries, it's up to you. Anyways, if you are a brand doing at least $100,000 a month and you want to explore the opportunity of potentially working with us to help you grow, then you can book a call. The call is just going to be an audit, honestly, so it's going to be valuable either way, regardless of whether we work together or not. And so if we see an opportunity, we can partner up. If not, completely no issues. Maybe we can just refer you to somebody else that we know can help. So we tend to be a bit picky with the partners that we choose, but that is up to you if you want to book or not. It's completely up to you. Hopefully you do. I'll see you on the other side, and definitely I'll see you in the next video. Bye.